All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Chris Baroni. I'm with the Lake Lindero Country Club and the Lake Lindero Homeowners Association. Just wanted to give you guys kind of an update on what was going on regarding kind of the legal situation, payments, and then I also want to make sure that we discuss some club information that's going on around the club area, and then kind of wrap up with somewhat of a overall perspective financially from successful 2019 that we had. So first, let me just start off by saying, one, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and two, taking the opportunity to hear what I have to say, and to also kind of get across to you guys something that I think you can find valuable, and hopefully bring you up to speed on some of the issues. If you look at the channel, there's other videos that I've made, and really is an attempt on my part to give you guys the unfiltered information that I have, and feel free to ask me questions. I will go a little bit over some of the recall, because I know I said I wasn't, but obviously if you had questions, and I want to get those addressed too. Okay, so the first thing is obviously 2019 was our first year, and it was a very, very successful year, and we definitely had a financially the best year we've had in a very long time. We saw our reserves go from, I think, close to, what was it, I think by the time the year started in 2019, it was around 2,000. I think we may have put some in, I think, though, actually before. But in either case, we went from, maybe a couple thousand to 200,000 plus. I think we ended the year with right around 60 in our operating account. But again, I don't get too caught up on operating, because that changes and that fluctuates anywhere from, like, I'd say 30 to 100 in any given month. The good news is that operating money has allowed us to really not only just book business, but also to become a lot more efficient in the business operations that we have at the club. And in specific, when I say that, is we bought quite a bit of equipment that also allowed us to get a lot more done in a shorter period of time, with quite a bit of reduction in our liability. And increase in our revenues. Frankly, we could see the playability of the golf course increasing throughout, especially that June to end of the year time frame, into even a very successful aeration that happened earlier this year around the November time frame, which we're very fortunate and happy to have done. And the response from the agronomist and also from the grass is, and the players, but is really good. But there's still quite a bit of room, as you guys know, for improvement. I mean, it's obviously been neglected for a long time. But one of the biggest surprises, I think, in the last quarter of 2019 was the number of new golfers that had showed up. I mean, it was quite substantial. One of the also surprises was, we had quite a few return, but it's also an area, I think, that we'll see a pretty substantial increase going into 2020, which is our ability to retain customers and want them to come back. We saw a significant increase in that on the second half of and going especially into the final quarter of 2019. I anticipate that that'll still be the case, and I think there'll be quite a bit of an uptick so far, even into this year. But a lot of it's predicated on weather, of course, so I always caution on such a view, because I know I think February was pretty disastrous for us. So hopefully not this year, but we'll seek to rebound from year over year coming here in this first quarter. But I'll make sure that you guys are kept abreast as far as what's going on there. The other thing, kind of going over some of that, is how much money we invested back into the club. So altogether, I have close to around $300,000 that we had invested back in the club through capital improvements, equipment, and all of that. The importance of that really is really identified by what you guys are seeing, right? So whether it be the aeration system in the lake and the lack of an algae bloom. And I know some people said that there wasn't much of one. Actually, there was. I talked to the State Water Board. They came out here. We had a discussion, showed them the sluice gate, also went over a few things regarding our creek area and into the lake. And there were a couple lakes, Malibu and Westlake, who did have a fairly substantial algae bloom, but we didn't. As I mentioned in another video, I think the aeration obviously has something to do with it, but I also think the exercising of our sluice gate helps quite a bit too. That being said, really good showing there. We did have to move a bunch of trees away from the dam area because State Dam, I guess after 25 years, decided that the same trees that had been there for however long they'd been there potentially had some root compromise issues. Now, whatever, we got it addressed with the exception of one tree, which quite frankly, if they want to take a look at it, what we did, which was quite a bit, we'd be more than happy to address that tree if it really comes down to being an issue. The good news is it's the compliance side of it. We got rid of the region RAA agreement, which was very important. I think that was a ridiculous amount of money per quarter we were spending on it. And obviously in 2019, we didn't have to worry about that. And truth be told, I think towards the end of 2018, we had gotten rid of that officially too. So, and we've been able to show that we can sustain it. Now, it does require quite a bit of time, but nothing to the level of which we were told. That I can assure you. So that's good news, though, for us. The other set of the finances, just to kind of finish up with that, is, we saw a pretty substantial increase into the range. We definitely are going to have some improvements to make out on the range, as well as the irrigation system. As many of you know, we had a pretty large underground piping project underneath Cape Horn, closer to hole 1 going to hole 2. It was a successful operation, but I think it was also an eye-opening experience for the complete and total lack of maintenance of our irrigation line, and the incorrect pipe that was being used. It was a little scary, to be honest with you. So we're going to have to tread wisely there. I don't anticipate there being anything catastrophic, but we clearly need, and I'll be setting up towards the second half of this year, a replacement project. So what I anticipate doing is breaking that down over the course of maybe 4 years. 3 years would be better, but just depends, of being able to go, excuse me, about 3 holes per year in piping. And ideally, the way that would work is we would go from the 3 holes that have the most issues on through the course. It may not start specifically numerically in order, but what it will do is be addressed by need. So there may be, again, in the second half, we'll do a irrigation pipeline assessment, and that'll basically give us an idea of where we're weakest at. And there's quite a few ways to do the assessment. So as time gets closer and we get bids, we'll be able to kind of narrow that focus down. That is obviously one of the major concerns that the golf course currently has to address, and that's what I'll be doing. So that being said, 2019, the kind of the look back there was, it was a year of a lot of uncertainties, and throughout it, with, the steadfast leadership of the board, we were able to be nimble and adapt enough to make the necessary changes. Obviously, the financials were the highlight as far as our ability to not only maintain but increase our revenues, but also I think, when I look at like our share of the market in terms of when I look at it from those that are around us, I'm pretty darn certain that we definitely picked up a little bit of our share, which is important. Listen, we're not going to be the Westlake or the Sherwood or anything like that. It's not what we are. What we are is we're a family-friendly place where, ladies and kids and men that are learning and women that are learning and kids that are learning, they can come and they can play and not be brushed up on and pushed fast through a course. We've got a niche in this market that I think is going to continue to grow. Golf in and of itself maybe stagnates, but the desire for people in and around this area, because we have a golf course to play, has increased. I mean, we definitely have seen that. So, and like I said, I think a lot of it's just we got to make our course more playable, more fun to play, and we've done that, but it's still a long way to go. So that part of it is going to be key. But back to the 2019 and some of the unknown variables, I think I went over this in another one. We had quite a bit of litigation and quite a bit of issues regarding lawsuits from the prior year, from 2018. But what we have been able to do, and I think that this will give some of you a good peace of mind, and clearly this is an area where, like I said, the communication is going to be key, and letting you guys know, because see, I feel comfortable, really comfortable regarding our place in all of these lawsuits, but it's somewhat unfair because I know it's not always presented to you guys as often or as much as perhaps I'd like. And so we're definitely going to be working on that. So the lawsuits, I want to tell you that as of right now, there's really only 4 lawsuits that I would consider to be of anything significant enough to even talk about. And that's pushing it to the maximum. The GPL case is the case that clearly is a very strong case for us. That one is still active. It's still fairly active. And although, we have some issues with regards to the attorney, those issues are really confined to him. They're definitely not, being, I would say, instigated by us. So if you're at the ex parte, the reasons given were a conflict of interest for them and then a breakdown in communications. Now, that's kind of code for, we just needed something else to say. There wasn't a breakdown in communications from our side. There wasn't a very good line of communication from them to us. And like I said, I think that this started probably way beyond this December. So I would probably say into that June, July, August timeframe, when we started noticing maybe more of a shift in their actions and lack thereof. And then just some, pretty shoddy work, like things that shouldn't have happened, things that were said, things that were let go, things that were done, even from the recall. I mean, there were a lot of things that weren't getting done correctly. And guidance was good overall, but it had dropped quite substantially. And then we had, these pretty big bills come out. And that's kind of what prompted a more active approach with the attorney. But in the end, like I said, Zach is still our HOA attorney, and will be so until the court instructs otherwise. But we are actively looking for other attorneys. We have some ideas. We've talked to a few, and we're getting closer. But it's a tough spot to be in. But that's life. I mean, I don't know, since I've been around, at least in the last couple of years, when there hasn't been a tough spot. So you're obviously used to it. But I think there's the end game here is that by the end of this year, these should be settled. Obviously, the Rappaport one, we'll be seeking, damages for that because it was frivolous, it was filed incorrectly, and I think that'll also affect our GPL case. I think once the judge hears that, David Smith filed on behalf of those 3 people, and it makes sense. We kind of knew that. We just were trying to wait to get our ducks in a row. I think that'll also have quite a substantial effect on the GPL case. I mean, this isn't good for them. I mean, it's a really bad situation for them. They're going to have some explaining to do. Then the liked case, which is the tennis case, that one's near hideous. I'm shocked that it's even still a case. And then we have the case with Marco, which was, obviously filed not only frivolously and maliciously, but it was silly. So those 2 really, although they appear to be somewhat significant, there is no significance to those 2 cases that I can see as far as we're concerned. The tennis case, they didn't even have a contract with us. They weren't providing us insurance. or proof of, and they weren't paying to be there, and simply were trying to monopolize on a very tough situation for our HOA, and I didn't let it happen. Outside of that, there was some issues regarding the recall, and we're going to put something together, but I'm just, to be honest with you, going to kind of had my son's birthday party today, but and it is relatively late, but I wanted to put this out there because I know it takes some time to download and all that good stuff. The recall, so both recalls failed. So someone said, well, you said there was all these other things in civil codes that you broke, or they broke, and blah blah blah. Yeah, which ones are they? Well, I mean, one, thanks for asking, and two, some of these are, election codes and civil codes and corporate codes. But so, as many of you know, you can't recall a director twice in 6 months. So Michael Allen was clearly recalled twice in 6 months. So the second recall would be nullified right then and there, because he was recalled through an individual recall and then a board recall of his own choosing, which, again, I know why he did it, because he didn't want to go to the cumulative voting, but you don't get to recall yourself twice. So it's over right then and there. That's in Davis Sterling. The codes I'll give you guys at another time, but I think probably most of you know that. And by the way, it's also why these hack attorneys that came out, and oh God, and I got to remember about that. Hold on, because something great happened. I found out just earlier this evening. So with regard to those attorneys, anyway, that's one. The other one is you can't recall a director when he's within 6 months of his term ending. That's just common sense. Again, I thought it was silly for them to even piggyback off it. If they just stuck with the one that we did, they might have been able to get inside of that, but they didn't. And by the way, both Hal and Dave are up, so obviously there's another reason why that recall wouldn't work. And then there's, what else was there on that? Obviously the quorum thing, I think that's been beaten to death. And just to be clear, so you guys know, I mean, there is a, you could take it to the court, but the party that would have to take it to the court is the one that's trying to change the composition of the new board. And as I've said before, I wouldn't put it past them. I think there's going to be some information out here in the next day or so that's really going to show you what the three imposters are really up to, and it's going to reveal quite honestly something that is very sinister going on, as I've been telling you, and they know it. And all I can tell you is from what I was able to gather already is it's pretty bad. What they were doing, I guess they had some make-believe meeting at the club by the bar when I had some employees there, but like I said, from what I gathered, it sounds really bad. Almost like it was a joke, that bad. But it wasn't, unfortunately. And like I said, probably tomorrow or Tuesday, you guys will probably hear about that. Meeting still on for Wednesday. Those of you who have any concerns with regards to the composition of the board, I just told you in the last video, and I'll tell you again, the composition of the board hasn't changed for a myriad of reasons, but there's even more than the two I gave you as far as, when you can actually recall somebody, and then, recalling somebody twice within a 6-month period, then the quorum that wasn't met and wasn't even close to being met. And then there's also, the other one is, the inspector of elections. Yeah, so one, they haven't let us look at him. Two, it really doesn't matter, because, and this is why we waited kind of a while. We wanted to see how they did it. And when I was saying from the beginning that they were making a mockery out of something that we take, then the HOA should take very seriously and sacred, is the board has to choose the inspector of elections. It says that clearly at Davis Sterling. You don't get just to go pick it. And then also, here's the other thing to avoid a problem. And this is what the Hack Channel Islands, what's his name? Joshi or whatever his name, Navendu Joshi. Dude's tick in the classroom, honestly, because if the garbage that you sent over here, I mean, you're an embarrassment to the state of Ohio, that's for sure. And to be a Browns fan, you're more of the Clowns fan. Honestly, I can't believe that you sent that crap over here to us. But I do appreciate you forwarding my emails. By the way, that was what I was going to get to. So, what I was going at there and shooting for was just to prove to you guys that those emails were given to Michael Allen, I think Hal Siegel or Harry Cohen, and then they were sent back out. I guess I don't know if it was in an email or somewhere, but I had gotten a screenshot of it that they had posted it. So this is indeed what I was saying, which is not only can't some of these people be trusted, but whenever you get to a point where things would be sent to an attorney, especially as the CEO, and especially as someone who claims to be an HOA attorney, the idea that you would send them to somebody else and then they post it online really kind of just proves what I was saying, which is, one, they're not HOA attorneys, clearly, and two, the people, Michael Allen or Hal or whoever they sent them to that posted them somewhere, indicates a lack of integrity. And by the way, it was sent with a purpose, and I've got a few people who knew what that purpose was, although in the beginning they didn't. They do now. And so, again, therein lies what I was saying is, and I think that if you guys saw who they were to and all that stuff, you could tell it was done by design. So more than anything, what you guys saw there was people faking being an attorney for the HOA and then putting a huge liability out there for the HOA. And the idea that, yes, I was absolutely going to send them a scathing email or 3 or 4 with some things that would compel a response. Well, awesome. Great job. The response worked. Thank you guys for posting it. I wouldn't recommend you post stuff that goes to the attorney, especially from an employee and somebody who claims to be an HOA attorney. But in either case, point proven, you didn't see me posting too many things that, board members or members of the HOA were sending to Zach for good reason. It is what it is. Okay. And then the final part was, there's a couple things going on to the club, and I know I had mentioned this to you guys before. First thing was the pool is closed. Lordon, Michael Allen, Hal Siegel, they just really got to a point where I think the level of confusion, the hack emails or hack mails from the fake HOA attorneys that came out there, were totally unprofessional, and a serious liability as well. I think coupled with a few other things that Malibu Canyon Aquatics decided to close up shop. So before they come back, obviously there'll be a discussion with me. There'll be repercussion for what they did leaving without letting me know. And, it's unprofessional, to say the least. So I apologize. I'm not giving you guys a heads up, but as frustrated as they may have been from what the other guys were doing, it pales in comparison to my level of frustration, because not only are they trying to hurt our business in every way, shape, and form, they stole our point of sale system. Shelby has now removed or replaced our internet service provider at the club. They have broken into our employee login system. They have short paid our employees substantially. They have not paid bills that were months overdue. We have plenty of money to have paid them. They have illegally withdrawn money from our reserve account on 3 separate occasions. And then when they were told to help us find other companies to help us run the HOA on the APAR side, they failed to do that. They've been insubordinate during the recall, and then they pretended to be some sort of authority in the recall and went as far as to change locks and to change our point of sale system, and then even had these, I think one of these hack attorneys send a letter to the banks and freeze our money. So I mean, really and truly just a indicative of the level of unprofessionalism, and actually kind of cemented the decision to finally get rid of them. Like I said, they started off, it was a tough job to start off with, but they really persevered those first 3-4 months. But it wasn't long after that it was now just, it had to happen. And like I said, I can't tell you how many times I, kept thinking, this will galvanize the HOA, except I probably gave a little too much credit to the other side, who immediately jumped went from slamming them every month to slamming them and how horrible they were and lighting up their reviews online, to now liking them and wanting them to take over the whole place. You just can't make this stuff up. So I tried there, but in the end, like I said, we'll be far better off. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys as of right now. As things progress, I'll let you know. But I really want to say thank you so much for all of the support, the motivation, and it means a lot to me. And I look forward to seeing many of you there on Wednesday. There'll be some good information to pass out there. And like I said, stay tuned. I think you guys are going to be really shocked by what information we were able to gather from Harriet, Hal, and Michael Allen having some, meeting at the club, and the things that they were saying while I had employees there and people were walking in and out. It was you guys will hear it. So anyways, that's it. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.